Hello, Assalamu alaikum, adab, and welcome to Goff Shoff with EjaySam. Right, before we actually jump into tonight's topic, what I'm going to do is just double make sure that I'm streaming from the right page, because previously I actually started streaming and I was streaming from my own page, which was a bit silly really. I forgot to check, but hey, I'm only human and these things do happen. So let's have a look. Are we on the right page? Yes, it looks like we're on the right page, so that's good. Yep, so great. We've got a couple of viewers already. So before we actually jump into the nitty-gritty, as they say, I'm just going to quickly share the page to all the relevant groups, so just making sure that no one actually misses out. So just bear with me 1 second. It's one of these things that happens, you know, when you're working on your own. Right, okay, let's see now. Sorry about this, guys. Unfortunately, there's no automatic way of doing that. So let's see. Once we get these out of the way, fingers crossed, you know, it should be okay, and then we can jump into the nitty-gritty. Right, in a group. Oh dear, oh dear. Right, marvellous. I think we finally got it. So I'm just going to quickly start again. Assalamu alaikum, adab, and welcome to Goff Shoff with EjaySam. And our skip topic is electric vehicles. Now, electric vehicles have been around for a better part of 8-9 years as we know it commercially. And you know, most of you, you know, would know that the Nissan Leaf was probably one of the most, or is one of the most commercially available and recognized electric vehicle on the market today. But if we were to go back many years ago, we'd all, you know, like sort of remember that there were electric vehicles on the road. I'd say a better part of nearly 30-40 years at least. So I'm just going to go into that, just 1 moment. I'll just quickly give a quick shout out. I've got Mahbub Rahman Bhai watching, Assalamu alaikum. I've got my man Kamrul Hussain is watching, thumbs up mate, nice of you to join us. We've got Chinese Bhai, as always, you know, he's a regular. Ahmed Ali Bhai, Sonia Ahmed Ji, and Chinese Bhai, Assalamu alaikum bro, hope you're well, walaikum salam. Yes, fantastic, alhamdulillah, good. He also says, I'm here for the free car. Sadly, I'm not giving away a free car, but I'm going to show you how to get a free car. So tune in, stay there, share the post, make sure that, you know, like all your friends can take advantage of this fantastic free offer. No one's sponsoring this show, so no particular vehicle manufacturer is actually giving us a free vehicle, but I'll show you how to get your free vehicle. So stay with me. Mahbub Rahman Bhai, welcome salam. Thank you again, sir. You know, I do appreciate you taking some time out from your busy schedule. I understand, you know, you are super busy with your online business, if I may say so, live on air. Mahbub Rahman Bhai is a very good friend. You know, we basically, you know, like have been friends for a number of years through our Facebook page, Facebook group, I Love Bangladesh. And I had the pleasure of actually meeting him in person at one of our recent events, honouring our elders. So, you know, he's a fantastic bloke, down-to-earth guy, you know, lovely, very mild-mannered, almost like a Clark Kent-esque guy. Kamrul Hussain says, my dad said he has an electric car. Do you want it? He'll give it for free. Yes, absolutely, Kamrul Hussain. Yes, free is good. And Chinese Bhai also agrees, free is good. So yes, anything goes for free is good. There's a saying in Bangla, Magna Bisho Halal. Literally translated, if poison is free, it's halal, it's permissible. So a car is a substantial thing. Yes, I'll have it for free. Thank you. Right, okay. So let's jump in. And I'm going to do a bit of Banglish. Ada Bangla, Ada English. So shohole mane kisuta bujte shows ibo. Amra Ahmed Ali Bhai asun, amra loge. Assalamu alaikum Ahmed Ali Bhai. He's a superstar, you know, a theatre legend. You know, I'm really honoured that, you know, like I've got to meet this guy. He's also a fantastic bloke, very patient, and sometimes, you know, like we have the occasional Goff Shoff on the phone, and mashallah, he's a brilliant guy. You know, he's got a vast amount of knowledge in any and every topics, and mashallah, I look forward to working with you, EjaySam, in the near future, with a couple of things that we have planned. Obviously, you know that we recently had a Hassan Raza festival in Burnley, and you know, in terms of, you know, doing something across the country, you know, we would need your support as well. So yes, I will contact you, Ahmed Ali Bhai, very soon in regards to this. So going back to topic, we're just gonna quickly, you know, touch on what today's topic is. Today's topic, আজকে আমরা মাতমু ইলেকট্রিক গাড়ির সম্বন্ধে। মার্কেটের মাঝে ইলেকট্রিক গাড়ি আইছে রাফলি 2010 টাকিয়া। সো হলে আপনারা যারা মানে রাস্তার মাঝে লক্ষ্য করুন আর কি, গাড়ি খুব একটা আজীব ধরনের, আজীব আকারের এক গাড়ি বার হইছে নিসানে বা করছে ফুলি ইলেকট্রিক। গাড়ির নামটা হইছে নিসান লিফ। এছাড়া Mitsubishi Miv আছে, which is like a very strange car. Twizy, Renault Twizy আছে, আর একটা গাড়ি আছে Renault Zoe, আরো অনেকটা মানে ইলেকট্রিক গাড়ি আছে, আর you know, হাইব্রিড গাড়ি, half petrol half electric, আপনারা জানবা টয়োটা। তো আজকে আমরা হাইব্রিড সম্বন্ধে আলাপ করতাম নাই, হাইব্রিড সম্বন্ধে অন্যদিন আমরা আলাপ করবো। হাইব্রিডের মানে কতটুকু ফায়দা, এগুলো সম্বন্ধে আরো প্রোগ্রাম করবো এটা। তো আজকের প্রোগ্রাম হচ্ছে শুধুমাত্র ইলেকট্রিক ভেহিকল মাঝে, ফুলি ইলেকট্রিক, শুধুমাত্র ব্যাটারির উপরে চলে যেটা। সো just quick couple of shout outs. Amda Mazu Miyabai Dahra. Assalamu alaikum Mazu. Nice of you to join us. Amda Sutubai Muhammad Ataur Rahman Dahra. Assalamu alaikum bro. Thank you for watching. Doliz Mia Dahra. My next door neighbour. We've got Min Ahmed as well. Assalamu alaikum Min Ahmed. She is an admin of our ILB page. Very active, very strict. She's like a headmistress. Right, so shout outs out of the way. Okay, I'm going to concentrate on the topic now. So আগে আমি হয়ে গেছি যে electric গাড়িটা আসলে নয়া কিছু নাই। Electric vehicles have been around for a better part of 40 odd years. Now, আমরা মাঝে নতুন প্রজন্মের যারা আছে, the new generation, they won't remember milk floats. You know, the guy who used to, you know, like come down the road, you know, in the early morning, 5-6 o'clock in the morning, who used to drop off milk, juice, egg, bread, cream, sometimes even pop, you know, like lemonade and stuff. those of us who are lucky to have lived a bit longer, yani ki amda buddha hol, you know, we remember milk floats, you know, like being a regular thing on a daily basis. Every day shohale amda dud diya jaito, and we used to listen to the distinct humming voice. It's like a kind of a low frequency whistling kind of sound. It's like a whizzing sound, zzz kind of sound, and you could hear that, you know, in the morning coming across, you know. And if you're one of these early risers, you'd listen and you can hear the milk float coming over. Now the milk floats technically would be one of the first commercially used vehicles, which were used for, you know, supplying, delivering goods. Now, obviously, you know, due to, you know, supermarkets, big stores taking over, you know, they've literally vanished off the face of the earth. Now, if they're still around, guys, you know, comment and let us know, you know, because I haven't seen a milk float for a long, long time. Now, going back to the origins of electric vehicles, amda General Motors to Zandam. Again, you know, none of these guys are sponsoring the program, but I'm just using their name because they're historic facts, and therefore it's irrelevant, you know. And I sincerely hope they don't sue me, because I'm saying good things about them, not bad things. So GM Motors, you know, actually came out with the first viable motor car or vehicle, you know, family car, way back, what, I think it was in the early 80s. Don't quote me on that, I can't remember, but, and it was called the EV1, or the Electric Vehicle 1. And after a while, you know, it was a novelty. You know, most rich guys, you know, had the EV1, and after a while, I think it was about a couple of years later, all these vehicles were recalled and crushed. There's only a handful, I think about 15 or 20 of these EVs still remain to this day. They're not being driven on the roads, but some car enthusiasts have actually, you know, kept them in pristine condition. If you look up on the internet, you can actually see, you know, the EV1, which looks a bit like, guys, do you remember the Ford Probe? It was like a sports car, similar to a Celica, a Toyota Celica. It was like a love child of Toyota Celica and the Ford Probe, and that's what the, you know, the EV1 looked like. So anyway, there was a lot of politics involved, you know, and for that, I think, you know, General Motors have actually stopped, you know, producing electric cars for, what, a better part of 3 to 4 decades. And obviously, you know, you understand where the politics come from, because, you know, oil, taxes, government, you know, fees and government taxes, and, you know, you do the maths. You know exactly where I'm coming from, why EVs were like buried, or big car manufacturers were actually given a payoff saying, don't make electric vehicles because we're losing out on fuel tax. Now let me give you a quick example when I talk about fuel tax. Now in the UK, the average fuel price is around £1.20 a litre. So whether it's petrol or diesel, it's around, you know, £1.20, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. Now, if we were to go across the sea into Europe, let's say France, the same quality, same grade of petrol would be something in the region of, I think it's 70 pence a litre. So essentially, we're paying roughly 50 pence more on our fuel, or fuel duty tax as it's probably known as. We're paying 50 pence more per litre in comparison to our European neighbours. There's a good joke in the Middle East. A couple of friends, I was just having a chit chat, as you do, and they were saying petrol is cheaper than water. Water actually costs more than fuel. Can you believe that? What a strange world. Anyway, I'm just going to go to a couple of comments and then I'll just pick up from where I was blabbing on. So let's see. Walaikum salam. Someone has to crack the whip. Mr. Sam, and keep everyone on the straight and narrow. Yes, true, true. And who better to do that than you? Chinese way of Huida. I need a whip. Where can I get one from? eBay, bro. eBay. Dolly's me. Still one doing rounds in Northern. Oh yes, okay. Fair enough. Dolly's me is a busy guy. Just quickly, sort of put a little plug in for him. He's a fantastic photographer. So, look him up on Facebook. He's got a very keen eye for objects, subjects. So when he takes pictures, it's amazing. So big up to you, Dolismia. He's a fantastic photographer. I don't know whether he's going to give you a discount for a shout out, but he is reasonable, can be negotiated. Speak to him. Mahburaman Bayahuida, I think electric cars can be ideal for taxi drivers. They can save money and it would also be good for the environment as they are driving a lot. Fantastic point, Mahburai. As a matter of fact, since you raised that point, I'm going to go straight to that. I was going to talk about taxis and EVs. Now, I've been looking into electric vehicles for a better part of the last 3 years, and the reason for it is I heard about a company called Tesla. I'm sure most of you are aware of Tesla. It's a luxury car that runs solely on batteries. It's probably the fastest car. It's like 2.3 seconds to 60. That's just mental. And when I looked into it and I did a price up online, I was curious, I just wanted to know. So I priced it up, and for a fully kitted Tesla Model S, it worked out just short of £100,000, which, someone like me has got no chance. So I thought, I like the idea because electric is cheap and you're doing your part to save the environment. Obviously petrol, a lot of people have, like sort of respiratory diseases due to, particles, that is, sort of pushed out of the exhaust. It's dirty. Like when you rev up your diesel car, even though, like diesel gives you extra bang for your buck, in comparison to petrol, they're workhorses. They just go on, carry on. I should know, I've owned, 3 diesel vehicles, and they're fantastic, they're brilliant. They're like, they're like mills. They just go on and on and on. But, if you rev, like rev a bit high, or you take off from the traffic light at a higher rev, you'd be spewing out black smoke, and that's like all sorts of rubbish come out through the exhaust. So yeah, so I've been thinking, okay, a Tesla is not really feasible unless you win the lottery. And what are the chances of that? You know, it's astronomical. That's not going to happen. So realistically, what do? Realistically, you know, you look around at the other options. Now, Renault has been making, you know, like Renault and Mitsubishi have been making electric vehicles for a while as well. So I looked at the other alternatives. What other electric vehicles there are on the market? Looking at those, none of them really appealed, either because of, you know, how much battery charge they can hold, as in how many kilowatts of energy they can hold, and how many miles you get out of it. Because don't forget, the mileage is dependent on the charge, and the charge is dependent on the weight of the vehicle plus any other gadgets you have on. So anything that's draining power in the vehicle itself is also has an impact on your end mileage. Also, you know, your driving style. So if you keep putting your foot down, it's gonna, you know, like take a lot of energy and to move the wheels, and therefore you're gonna get less miles out of it. So I started looking around, and a realistic choice with a realistic range or driving distance in one charge was the Nissan Leaf. Now, going back to Mahbubur Rahman Bai's point about taxi drivers, yes, apparently down south there are, you know, like a couple of taxi firms who have been using Nissan Leafs for, or not Leafs, Leafs. Nissan Leafs for, you know, taxiing. Now, yes, it makes fantastic sense. I'll also, you know, go into detail about the cost of, you know, like recharging, and do a comparison to a fuel car, you know, a regular petrol or diesel car. So I'll do a comparison on that later on in the program. But the amazing thing is, there's a couple of myths going around. Like Mahbubur Rahman Bai said, yes, the taxi firms are saving a phenomenal amount of money, and that I will reflect on later on in the program, showing, you know, how much you can save on average and how long it takes to actually recoup what you've paid for the vehicle. Now, one of the most common questions, you know, like people ask, or it's usually asked on the internet, is what about the battery? You know, does the battery degrade? Battery চার্জ কতটুকু থাকে, আর ব্যাটারি যদি চার্জ মেইনটেইন করতে পারে না, তো ব্যাটারি রিপ্লেস করতে কত সময় লাগবে, কত পয়সা লাগবে? So based on that, I looked around on the internet, and that before mentioned taxi firm, they actually have done 250,000 miles on a Nissan Leaf, and the battery degradation is only, what, I think it's 5%. So out of 250,000 miles, they've only lost, what, 3 to 5% of the total mileage. Now, just to put it into perspective, imagine your car does, just for easy maths, your car does 100 miles per charge. 5% of that is what, 5 miles? So you still can do 95 miles on one charge. That's still pretty good. Don't forget, when you're at standstill, you're not using electric other than, you know, if you've got the radio on, or, you know, if you've got the fans going, or if you've got the headlights on. And these actually, you know, like take minimal electric anyway. So even if you're stuck in, you know, like London traffic, you're not losing much electric. And at the same time, all these taxi firms have, you know, like rapid chargers, which essentially mean that these chargers pump out more juice to charge the battery at a faster pace. Just like chargers that we have at public places like train stations, most hotels, motorway stops, motorway service stations. Now, initially, you know, you go to one of these, sometimes it's free. So the good news is you can get free charging. So sometimes you get, some places you get free charging, some places you have to pay between £6 and £10, depending where you're actually charging. I'll talk about that later. But the beauty of it is, it only takes half an hour. It takes half an hour to charge up to 80%, which on that hypothetical 100 miles on a full charge, essentially gives you 80 miles for half an hour charge. Now imagine if I were to go to, from Rochdale to London, I'm looking at about 210, let's say from Rochdale to East London, I'm looking at about 210, 215 miles-ish. So that means I have to stop twice to charge the car. So first stop would be probably 80 miles down. So I've got 20 miles charge, 20 miles left in the vehicle, assuming that, you know, we're working on the 100 mile per charge. So once I pull up at the petrol at the service station, you know, I'd probably pop the car on charge, use the facilities. People with good bladders don't need to. Just stop, stretch your legs, you know, grab a coffee or something, a quick bite. That takes about half an hour, 40 minutes anyway. So you won't even notice that time you're actually charging your car, because that would be something like a normal stop. You know, you go into a big service station, you stop, use the facilities, grab a coffee, have a snack, and by the time you come back, your car's got another, say about another 85 miles range. After that, you go into, just before, you know, getting into London, you pull up at the, probably either the second to London or the last one in before London. You go there, charge it up, 80 miles, happy days. You know, you go into central London, do your business, and on the way back you can charge again, stop midway, charge again, and you'll be home. So theoretically, and actually people have done that, you know, there's loads of YouTube videos that actually show that, you know, people have done long journeys. You know, they've gone down south or up north, or done a, you know, like an up to the highest point in England, right down to the bottom of, you know, the furthest point in England. And, you know, the journey is doable, it's possible. The only downside is the stopping for charging. That's the only downside. Now again, you know, like, you know, going back to Mahbub Rahman Bhai comment, yes, the electric cars are emerging, you know, more and more nowadays, and with the advent of bigger capacity batteries, that means they're giving you more mileage per charge. So we're going to see more of that happening in the near future. And like I said, you know, costing wise, I'll give you an example later on in the program. Jackson Mia is watching. Hello Jackson Mia, nice of you to join us. Mahbub Rahman also says, do you think Saudi Arabia will be concerned about electric cars? Good point. As a matter of fact, there's a YouTube channel that I watch very avidly. I've actually subscribed to it, and you know, even though, you know, these guys don't endorse me or, you know, even acknowledge me. I'm just a small fish, a small drop in the ocean. The advice and the amount of tech news that they give is phenomenal. So guys, look it up. It's called Fully Charged. And do you remember the robot, you know, the android from Red Dwarf? Yeah, that guy, you know, presents the show. His name is Robert Llewellyn. He's a fantastic bloke. He's a no-nonsense, no-rubbish presenter, and it tells you like it is. So go and check that channel out, and you'd get to learn more about, you know, electric vehicles and what's happening, you know, in terms of development and in the market. Naeem Patel, Assalamu alaikum Naeem. How are you, bro? Wow, it's been a very long time. We need to catch up one day, bro. I hope you're enjoying the show. Stay with us. You know, don't vanish. Stay with us. Chinese mayor Huida, 30 riyals a litre in Saudi. He's referring to is it water you're referring to in comparison to petrol? I'm not quite sure, bro, but you know, like please clarify in the comments. Dolizmia, thank you. You're most welcome, Rabbi. As a matter of fact, you know, like, it's a pleasure, because end of the day, we're a community, close-knit, and I've always believed in keeping a microeconomy going within the community. So if you have a talent in the community and the talent is comparable to other service providers, then why not you? Let's keep the economy going within the community, help support local businesses, and, you know, that's the kind of ethos we all need to have. You know, a good level of professionalism and a good level of support for each other. Shoaib Ahmed Chaudhry, the electric car is not good for long runner. Yes, you're absolutely right. Like I mentioned before, you know, if you're doing a lot of mileages, you know, on a daily basis, it's probably not going to be for you, because, you know, if you're like a business driver, you know, a corporate driver, shall I say, and you're up and down the country almost every day, it's probably not for you, unless you can spare an extra hour and a half in each of your journeys for a pit stop. You know, if you've got a weak bladder like me, relieve yourself, have a brew, get a bit of rest, charge up, and then onwards with your journey. Or if you're one of those guys that are, you know, like saying, oh, forget that, you know, I'll do a 300-mile trip in one go, electric car isn't for you, unless you have a Tesla. You know, I think the Tesla 60 kilowatt battery does 325 miles, so that might be a good option. You know, again, you know, if you've got 100 grand lying about, why not? It's still economical. You're still saving money. If you're doing more mileages, a bigger battery, a higher class car with extra luxury and comfort is worth it. If you're an average Joe blogs, you know, just the average person who does about, I don't know, 60 to 100 miles a day, then an average car, an average EV should be perfect for you. For the odd one or two, you know, like journeys where you need to go to, I don't know, London, and then down to Portsmouth, over to Southampton, and then all the way back up to Scotland, and so on and so forth. It might be a good idea to hire a car, you know, just for the odd 2 occasions a year. But having an electric vehicle for everyday use, you know, everyday average use, makes more sense. Oh, we've got Mohibur Rahman watching. My man Mohibur, Assalamu alaikum, bro. He's a tabla maestro, a percussionist, and a damn good one at that. You know, most of you guys must have seen him on TV. He comes around on quite a lot of cultural events. we don't get to see him much these days because he's too busy, you know, like with his job, and plus he's moved away from the middle of England to somewhere secluded. I don't know where. He actually mentioned it last time, and knowing me, I forgot. Sorry, my boy. I forgot where you live now, but you know, you used to be in the Midlands. He's no longer in the Midlands. But I'd like to see you again sometime soon. And thank you for watching. Chinese the Jaguar I-Pace SUV price is 60k. 2 electric motors producing a total of 294 kilowatts, 300 miles on a single charge, 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. Yes, you're absolutely right. The I-Pace isn't out on the market as of yet, but it will be. I think first quarter this year it's due, so probably in March, you know, it should be available. Just a couple of months away, and I think they're taking pre-orders. So if you've got 60k lying about, that is a good car. Dual motor, 4-wheel drive, and 300 miles on a single charge, and you know, you can't knock it. Technology wise, it's brilliant. It's got all the usual Jaguar finesse, all the safety features. You can't knock it, but for some, 60,000 is a bit slightly over our, you know, comfort zone. Bilal Chaudhry is watching. Assalamu alaikum, Bilal. Nice of you to join us. Mohammed Shazwan Bats, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Mohammed Shazwan, salam sasa. Fildo asi, shabash beta shabash. I rely on guys like you. You know, you're doing all the field work. Fantastic. Oh, right, okay. Something off topic. Mohammed Shazwan, Sasa, why don't you have a festival in Rochdale? I'm working on it. I'm working closely with a few partners, a few ex-colleagues, very good friends. Hopefully we should have something later this year. Let's see what materializes from this partnership thing. Again, you know, funding is an issue, so we have to work out, you know, like how we actually get things, venue and so on and so forth. Leave it with me, Bats. I'll make Rochdale buzzing in the cultural arena. Don't worry. Mohammed Saim is watching. Assalamu alaikum, bro. Nice of you to join us. Hope everyone's fine. You know, everyone's good. And also a good friend of mine from Oldham, Mahmoud Hussain, Singer Hussain is watching. Assalamu alaikum, Hussain Bhai. Ashawari Pala Asun. We've also got Muhammad Mukid. Assalamu alaikum, bro. Thank you for joining us. And guys, you know, everyone who's watching, please share the video and like the video. You know, all it takes is a quick, you know, this finger, and just press the button like. What that does, it gives me encouragement to, you know, do research, look into certain subject matters and actually present it to you in a fun way. You know, so you're informed, and, you know, you have a laugh with me as well. It gives me motivation. You know, most people, you know, when you're watching, most videos that we watch, you know, either on YouTube or Facebook, etc., the point of, you know, like hitting the like button, or, you know, the love button, or the wow button, or the sad button, or angry button, whichever button you hit, it's a form of motivation to the person who actually shared the video or who produced the video. It just goes to show that you're showing a bit of appreciation for their work. You know, sometimes, you know, some productions require a lot of work. This production here at the moment, I'm just having a chill out with you guys, you know, over a cup of coffee, and talking about a subject that, you know, I'm passionate about. So it's not really hard work. I'm just socializing with you guys. So, yep, I can see some sad faces. No worries, no worries. Oh, some angry faces as well. There we go. At least I'm getting some reactions. That's not too bad. Right, okay. So let's move on. Let's move on further into the topic. Now, the question is, electric vehicles, who is it for? Any takers? No? Well, okay. Electric vehicles is essentially for everyone. Okay? Now, I'd say there's 3 types of drivers. One of them would be the average Joe, you know, people who work locally, not too far out, you know, within the 20-mile radius, for example. So if you're working in a 20-mile radius, you're essentially, let's say, you're working in a takeaway like me. That would entail you going from your home to your workplace, which is roughly about 20 miles. If you do some deliveries, you'd probably do about, I don't know, 40 miles in total, maybe even 50. So that's 20 and 50 equals 70, and 20 miles back home is 90. So if you have a car that does about 100 miles per charge, that's good enough for your daily requirements, because when you come home, on average, people tend to, restaurant workers, on average, they tend to come home 12 o'clock, between 12 and 2 o'clock in the morning. You can either, you know, plug it into a normal 3-pin socket, a household 3-pin socket, and that takes about 6 to 8 hours to charge your vehicle. So as soon as you come home, you know, probably get it into your private driveway. You can either, you know, have one of those garden sockets installed on your wall, and you just pop in your 3-pin plug and plug your car in. You can charge it that way. Or, you know, most, well actually all EVs, electrical vehicles, have a timer. So you can plug it in and, you know, set the timer to, say, start charging at 2 o'clock in the morning and stop at 7. So you get 5 hours charge. Or, you know, you can either get a wall charger. These chargers cost about between £200 to £300. Sometimes, you know, like there are offers where you buy the vehicle, they actually throw a charger in for free. Now these chargers probably take about 4 hours to charge. So if you plug in your car at 2 o'clock or put the timer, set the timer to start charging at 2, you can get the charge to stop charging at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now there's another thing that is that needs mentioning, is that tariff. You know, at what rate are you getting charged on your electric? Some households have 2 tariffs. One is a nighttime tariff and one is a daytime tariff. Some have an average tariff, a tariff that is an average of both, which is quite economical, because sometimes, you know, some people, you know, they very rarely use, you know, electric during the day. It's only, you know, during the evening, you know, say 5 o'clock onwards, and then probably the majority use of electric is probably 4 or 5 hours a day. Some households have, you know, like the need for electric 24 hours a day. Now, I'm not counting, you know, like your fridges and freezers, because they're on 24/7. But, you know, the kind of use I'm talking about is washing machines, microwaves, things that, you know, suck a lot of electric, those particular items. And a standard tariff would probably suit them, because you know, it's a good interim between a high price tariff and a low price tariff. Some people, you know, go for, you know, the economy 7. I don't know whether they still do that or something similar, which essentially says that, you know, after 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the evening, the electric is actually, you know, like priced at a lower rate. So from, let's say, don't quote me on this, I can't remember exactly, but from 7 o'clock in the evening to 7 o'clock in the morning, you're paying a lower rate, whereas during the day, 7 o'clock till 7 p.m, you're paying a higher rate. Some people have a pay-as-you-go meter, which is an average of both, but you're only paying a slight extra, a couple of pence extra. So just to sort of give you an idea, you know, the tariffs, you know, per kilowatt hour is approximately varying between 11 pence and 14 pence per kilowatt. So that's not bad. So let's look at, for example, let's look at the Nissan Leaf, the ideal example. Nissan Leaf has 3 models or 3 battery capacities. One is the first generation, the earlier model, which is a 24 kilowatt battery. The second edition was the longer range Nissan Leaf, which is 30 kilowatts, and the 2018 model is a 40 kilowatts. So if that's the case, then if you're charging your car from 0 to, say, I'm going to use the 40 kilowatt example. So how much does that work out at? 11 pence. Let me just have a look. 11 pence, 40 kilowatts. So essentially you're timing 40 by 0.11, which gives you £4.40. So to charge your car from 0 to 100% costs you £4.40. Now, I often get asked, you know, how do you work out the mileage, you know, like per kilowatt? Because on a petrol car or a diesel car, we tend to say, oh, it's so many miles per gallon, so many miles per litre. The gallon is more common, you know. Prime আমরা যদি gallon হিসাব করি আমরা, তাহলে আমরা on average, depending আপনার গাড়ির উপরে, some cars which with a poor mileage would be something like, I don't know, 18 miles per gallon. Some cars, you know, average cars, whether it's petrol or diesel, depending on the engine size, on average they do about 30 to 40 miles per gallon. And one of those new Blue Motion or Ecomotive, you know, engines, which are very, very, very efficient, they do up to 80-85 miles per gallon. Now, just to sort of give you an idea of how cheap those economical ones are, we need to, you know, work out litres into gallons. So if we were to pay on average £1.20 per litre, we know that 1 gallon is equal to roughly about 4.5 litres into a gallon. So that works out as £5.40 per gallon. Now, if we were to divide that £5.40 by 30, so we get 30 miles per gallon, we would end up with 18 pence per mile. So if your car does 30 miles a gallon, per mile cost is 18 pence. Now, if your car does, if your car has, you know, is one of those eco cars, then you're probably getting, I'd say, let's say 80 for example. So for £5.40, £5.40 divided by, say, 80. That works out as just over 6p a mile. Now, to give you a perspective of how much electric cars kind of miles per kilowatt, the cars actually differ from make to make because first of all we've got to consider the weight of the car, the amount of gadgets that you're running at the time, heaters, lights, radio, assisted driving, for example, lane keeping, or LiDAR, radar, and all that sort of stuff. So you've got automated stuff going at the same time. And some cars have, you know, like a Wi-Fi hotspot thing installed, so your passengers can have a little Wi-Fi bubble inside the car. If that's the case, then you know, you're using quite a lot of, you know, energy for things that will drain your battery. So on average, I've looked at, it works out as about 4 miles per kilowatt. So if we were to say 4 miles per kilowatt, so a 40 kilowatt car would give us 4 times 40. That would give us about 160 miles. I think Nissan actually quotes something around 180 or something, I'm not quite sure. But in realistic terms, it'll give you roughly about 160 miles. Now, if we were to, you know, work out how much 40 kilowatts actually cost, and then divide it by 160 miles to get our base price, as in how much it costs per mile, then we get to see the benefits of, you know, buying an electric vehicle for everyday standard use. So 40 times, let's see, 40 times, let's call it on the higher side, you know, if it's 14 pence per kilowatt, on the highest side it would be, oh, surprisingly, it's almost close to the gallon mark. So divide that by 160. That works out as roughly about 3.5p. 3.5 pence per mile. Now that's a huge saving. You know, that's way less than half. Now, as I said earlier on, you know, in terms of mileage and, you know, battery wear and tear, cars that have been used in taxis who have done over 250,000 miles have only lost roughly about 3 to 5% charge. And if that's the case, 3 to 5% charge, that's negligible compared to 250 miles. I mean, how many of us have actually owned a car and done 250,000 miles and not, you know, got rid of it way before then? Some of us buy cars for, you know, second-hand cars for £5,000–6,000. Some of us, you know, like get it just sort of a couple of years short of brand new, so we end up paying, you know, £15,000–16,000. So think of it this way: if we were to buy a car for £15,000–16,000, we're going to add petrol, we're going to look at servicing charges, road tax, and these costs, instead of reducing over the years, they actually add on, they pile on. So the value of your end value of your car is far greater than what you paid initially for the car. Electric vehicles, on the other hand, is the total opposite. You see, when I actually did a bit of research, I actually went into, you know, a Nissan dealership to try and find out, you know, the pros and cons of it. And what I found is you don't have to have an interim service, a yearly service on an electrical car, because there's less moving parts, less things that can go wrong other than your bog standard tyres, that's wear and tear, your brakes. Depending on how you drive, your brakes should last at least 3 to 5 years. You know, so they don't need changing. What else? Suspension. You need to top up a bit of water for your screen wash. And that's about it really. When you take your car into service, all they do is they, you know, plug in a diagnostic tool, check out the electric circuitry. If needs be, you know, like they'll probably open up your motor, grease it, pop it back on, and that's it. Service done. How much does it cost? Nissan essentially says that you need to service your car on average about every 2.5 years, 2 years, 2.5 years, depending on the mileage. So essentially you're servicing your car every 35,000 miles. Some of us, you know, who do about 10,000 miles a year, that looks like, you know, one service is required every 3 years. Some of us who do more, it's like a year and a half, maybe even a year. So we're only spending £150. That's how much it costs. Depending on dealer, of course. You know, some dealers are 150, some are about 180. They vary depending on your location. So the only difference is about 20-30 quid difference. But overall, there's hardly any anything that needs servicing apart from your wear and tear, which is like your tires and your brakes, topping up your brake fluid, maybe even, you know, just topping up your brake fluid and washer fluid. That's about it. You don't need a radiator, you don't need to check your oil level. It's carefree motoring. So just quick shout out to a couple of mates who have joined us. I've got Asma Khatun watching. Assalamu alaikum Asma Khatun. Hope you're all right. You know, you're finding the show useful, informative. I've got my my classmate, a very old friend of mine who lives in London, Shuaid Ahmed Chaudhry. He's watching. Assalamu alaikum bro. And also I've got Anwarul Islam, the legend of Oldham, is watching as well. Fantastic. We've also been joined by Farooq Ali. Baisab, Assalamu alaikum, Ashawari Balasun, and hopefully you're enjoying the show. If you've missed you probably have missed most of it, but once the live stream is finished, you can watch it from the beginning, and I'm sure you'll find it quite informative. Right, okay, so guys, do you have any questions about EVs, electric vehicles? Any questions at all? You know, pop it down in the comment section, or over here, just underneath me. Can you see? Yep, there's the studio number. You can give me a call if you want live, so you can do that. And I'm gonna talk about that special hook line that I said to Chinese Bay. That, oh, wonderful. I've got Afzal Mia watching, Idris Ali Bay watching. Assalamu alaikum guys, thank you for joining us. Right, okay, yes. So, Chinese Bay, earlier on I was having a little conversation with Chinese Bay over Messenger, and he also made a comment earlier on about, yes please, I want a free car. So, I'm going to show you how to actually get a free car. Okay, essentially, let's add up some costs. If you buy a car for £15,000, for example, for £15,000 you buy a petrol car, whether it's a nice saloon, a sporty hatch, or I don't know, a people carrier. Usually they are either petrol variant or diesel variant. And essentially, once you bought the car for £15,000, you're paying road tax, which varies, because some cars are nil road tax because the emissions are very, very low. Some cars are like £30, some cars are, sub 100, £80, £100, 110, right up to, I think, about 560. I think the high level petrol guzzlers, they end up paying about 500 plus. I pay, unfortunately, 280 because I've got an older model car and it doesn't meet, even though it's a diesel. Usually diesels get a lower road tax because it produces less emissions, but my particular model ended up in the dirty list. So it does spew out a lot of black smoke, I'm afraid, every now and then when I rev the engine. So I end up paying 280. So on average, if we were to say, like in the first year, your cost of the car would be, on average, your cost of your car would be 15,000, which is your buying price, and then you would add your road tax to it, so 15,100. And then the first year you would be adding the fuel. So depending how many miles you do, you'd be adding, say, I don't know, £30 to £100 of fuel each week times 52, which gives you the amount and figure of your annual fuel cost. Then you add the servicing cost, oil change, filter change, and then you also add mechanical maintenance. So, you have a light bulb go, or I don't know, your exhaust pipe falls off, things like that. So at the end of the year, end of the first year, you've got your initial 15,000, and then you got your maintenance and fuel cost, which probably tots up to another £1,000. I'm not going to take into account insurance prices because insurance prices are more or less the same. Insurers are more lenient on drivers who actually show that they're moving towards new technology. For example, if I am paying, I know Rochdale is a bad postcode area, so we end up paying high insurance. So if I were to pay, let's call an easy figure of £1,000 on insurance, if I had an electric car, I'd probably be paying 900. I'd get a £100 discount because A, it has more safety features, B, it also has no emissions, so I'm more eco-aware, if you will, and insurers actually take a bit of a liking, so you actually get a few quid off your insurance, so it's a bit better off. Now, in terms of, like I say, if you had a fuel car, you're adding on £1,000 a year on average, just on maintenance and fuel. Now, if I were to use the same example with an electric vehicle, there are ways to actually literally, drive the car for free. So the first year, if you're doing the same amount of mileage in comparison to a fuel car, then A, you don't have to pay for fuel because, every town has free charge points. Most supermarkets have free charge points. Okay, they're a bit slow. They don't, rapid charge, but they still charge faster than your 3-pin plug at home. So these are available, you know, for a quick top up whilst you're shopping. I'm going to use a good example of my town. Close to me, I've got a train station. There are, I think there's 4 charging points in the train station car park, and they're free to use. So essentially, you can park. Excuse me. Essentially, you can park your car, charge it, all for free. Town centre, you know, there's 4 parking bays specifically for electric vehicles, and again, it's free charging. So if it was down to me, I'd charge my car for free every day. You know, I'll just go into town to buy milk and bread, because by the time I park the car, and this is a fact, and you know, everyone from Rochdale, you know, when you're going into town and you're just having a ride about, when you're going into town, you'd notice there's the electric car charge parking spot right at the bottom of you know, town hall parking. You'd notice that there's either 1 or 2 cars. There's always a couple of spots free, so you don't have to, you know, like roam around until someone, you know, vacates a spot so you can rush in. So that's one beauty. You just park, go across the road into town, you know, just have a bit of a nosy window shopping, you know, here and there. Pop into Iceland, for example, you know, grab a loaf of bread, some eggs, and some milk. By the time you walked there, by the time you walked back, that's about half an hour. When you come back to your car's charged up to 80%, so you've got 80 miles ready to go. Now, like I said, for me, my trip to work is about 17 miles. I go to work 17 miles, come back from work 17 miles, that's 34 miles. If I do go on deliveries, then probably maximum I'll do 40 miles. So let's even up, you know, the mileage. So rather than say 34 miles, I'd say 40 miles. And 40 miles delivery, that's 80 miles. So essentially, I got my 80 miles need, my daily requirement or required mileage free from town. So if I do that 365 days a year, I have no fuel charge. Now, like I said earlier on, servicing for an average driver is anything between 2 and 3 years. So I don't have to worry about servicing. There's no interim service, there's no yearly service. There's a service at what, 36,000 miles. So for the first 36,000 miles, I don't even have to worry about servicing. And when I do come to it, it'll probably be between 150 and 180 pounds. The only thing I need to worry about is a £2 bottle of windscreen wash, and that's it. And just make sure my tyres are alright. Happy days, happy motoring. Now, the other thing that I would like to touch on is road tax. Electric vehicles, because they don't have a tailpipe, they don't have any emissions, which means for people who live in cities, for example, let's say central London. Now, central London, as you guys know, has a congestion charge and a restriction between certain hours. You can't drive into the city centre. So when you do enter, there's a £10 if you pay in advance. If you don't pay in advance, then the charge is a bit higher. I can't remember exactly, because to be honest with you, I don't drive into central London. I always park on the outskirts, and if I do need to go, you know, there's so many buses, you know, or, you know, if I need to, I'll just go for a long walk, like everyone else, you know. So if you have an EV, you don't have to worry about that. Especially for people who live in London, EVs are perfect because it saves you from getting a yearly congestion charge permit for those who work in the city centre. It saves you that money. Plus, again, people in London, they benefit hugely because there's loads of, you know, like free parking spaces, especially for electric vehicles. Not standard vehicles, electric vehicles, you get free parking. Plus you get free free charging as well. So, you know, you're saving what? Another £10–12 a day on parking and charging. So, you know, if you were to carry that trend on for, I don't know, 5 years, most people tend to keep their cars for 5 years. Essentially, if I were to do the same sum for a petrol car, in 5 years, you'll probably end up spending 15,000 initial purchase, and then an average of £1,000 a year. That's £5,000. So your overall cost is £20,000 for a petrol or a diesel car. Now, if I were to do the same for an electric vehicle, I would have to reduce or deduct, because, you know, on an average 5 year, you're spending £5,000 on a fuel car, you know, petrol or diesel. You can actually deduct that because that expense you don't need to have. So your £15,000 investment on an electric car after 5 years becomes £10,000. So essentially, rather than spending a total of 20, you're actually saving money on an electric car. Now, here comes the best bit, you know, the bit where your car actually becomes free. I did a quick sum based on my average usage. So the sum I did was, I drive approximately 200 miles a week. So for an average petrol vehicle, that would work out between £36 to £40–45, depending on your engine size and your fuel economy. In an electric vehicle, that works out at £1.08. That's if I plug my car in, you know, in my home outlet, or it's free if I park, you know, if I charge in town or, you know, at the train station, which essentially saves me between £36 and £40 a week in fuel. So anything that's saved can be counted towards, you know, a monthly end total. So on average, if I were to save, yeah, let's say £35, on average, if I were to say saving £35, that saving a month would be 140 just on fuel. Times that by 12, that comes to £1,680. If I times that by 5, I'm saving 8,400 just on fuel cost, based on my 200 miles a week. Now, if I were to do 400 miles a week, and that's not impossible, because once I used to own a restaurant which was like 45 miles away. So my everyday commute was what, 90 miles, 7 days. fast long challenge, that's like 450 miles. I used to do it on every week on average, minus deliveries. So when I used to do deliveries, we used to cover a fairly big area. So you know, I haven't even counted the delivery area. So just my my travel to and from work is about 450 miles. Now, if I were to, you know, calculate that, obviously that 8,400 would be 16,800 over 5 years. So essentially, over 5 years, your car has paid for itself, and you still have some loose change. So essentially, you know, if you have an electric vehicle and you drive a lot, you essentially, you know, have the car for free. And that is no joke. Do the sums yourself. You know, do a comparison and do a sum over 5 years with a petrol car. Now, it doesn't matter what brand you have, you know, whether you have a Ford Focus, a Nissan Juke, whatever. You know, your vehicle would consume, on average, 30 miles to 60 miles per gallon. You get 30 to 60 miles depending on your engine size and your driving style. If you're heavy-footed, then you're going to get less mileage. If you're light-footed and, you know, your gear change ratio is appropriate according to your revolutions, you can actually benefit more. You actually get closer to the manufacturer's quoted mileage. So that's really something for you guys to remember. Assalamu alaikum Raju Ahmed Bhai, thank you for joining us. Oh, we've got Jitu Miyabai as well. So I hope you guys found this discussion of use. If you guys have any questions in terms of electric vehicles, practicality, you know, please, you know, don't be hesitant to, you know, pop in a quick comment, just to sort of, you know, like put me under pressure. Like I said, you know, I have been actually researching electric vehicles for the past 3 years. Yeah, better part of 3 years, because my car is quite old now. It's on its last legs, and I've been giving it some serious thought, especially because of, as I mentioned earlier on, insurance prices are quite high, and for a driver who's been driving for a better part of 30 odd years, instead of insurance going down, it's going up. And I must admit, you know, mashallah, you know, by Allah's grace, I haven't had an accident in 30 years. Not at my fault anyway. You know, I've had some idiots, you know, like texting and driving and using my car to stop. But other than that, you know, I'm really, you know, like grateful and really lucky that I haven't caused an accident myself. I consider myself quite a cautious driver. Some people might say, you know, I'm that chauffeur from Driving Miss Daisy. You know, some of you guys will understand what I'm referring to. But I just don't see the point of rushing, because if you set off towards your destination half an hour, 15 minutes early, there's no need to rush. Why go at max speed when you can ensure your own safety and make sure no one else dies in the process? That's my thinking anyway. So guys, I hope so far, you know, I've given you a pretty good insight into, you know, the benefits of owning an electric vehicle. You know, also we looked at, Mahbub mentioned a really good comment. He's made an excellent comment about, you know, taxis using EVs saving a lot of money. Yes, they are, And you know, down south there are a couple of firms that are actually using electric vehicles as their main vehicle. Plus there is oh, happy days, guys. You know, we are graced by a superstar, Zulf Ali. Assalamu alaikum, bro. Nice of you to join us. Zulf Ali, by the way, you know, he's an emerging artist. He's a fantastic guitarist, excellent musician, super, you know, lyricist, singer. Guys, check out his YouTube page, check out his Facebook page. His recent release was Turn Back Time, which is brilliant. It's just simply fantastic. I can't say enough. You know, I've shared it in one of the posts. Guys, visit that, like and share the hell out of it. Yeah, so again, you know, like I said, if you guys have any questions about electric vehicles, practicality, this is the time to actually ask your questions. You can either use, where's the number gone? Oh, there it is. You can call into the studio if you wish, or you can simply just leave us a comment and, you know, we'll take over from there and take the discussion from there. Any questions about EVs, practicality, driving styles, your driving habits, whether you drive more than 80-90 miles a day, if you're driving your hundreds of miles, you know, what's the practicality? Any questions you have, fire away, because currently, to my knowledge, we are at a stage in, you know, auto manufacturing or automobile technology and market that we have a vehicle for everyone. You know, whether it's you want something for fun, or whether you want something for practicality, or you just want something to do your day-to-day shopping, dropping the kids off. Oh, Zulfali says, Salam EJ, bro, thanks for the intro, big love, brother. Big love back to you, bro. You're superstar, man. Superstar. And like I said, next time I'm coming down south, I'm going to give you a bell. I need to do an interview with you. Probably even jam with you. Manush, manusher jonno. I'm a rubbish singer, but, you know, what the hell. Guys, check out his Manush Manusher jonno video as well. Man, that is top. That is fantastic tune. He's done it justice. So guys, again, this is your chance to ask me anything about EVs, the practicality. Whilst you guys are typing away, you know, please don't make my screen crash with so many. Don't ask too many questions in one go, guys. You know. In the meantime, I'm just going to talk about, you know, practicality. Next time, bro, we jam. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, we will jam. Absolutely. I look forward to it. My daughter was in the market of buying another car. So I was telling her, I said, well, look, best thing to do is look at your driving habits. My daughter doesn't drive very far. You know, she just goes to work, comes back, goes to town, comes back. So her driving range, so to speak, is quite limited. She probably goes to Manchester and that's about it. You know, she doesn't travel that far. It's very rare. You know, if she does go far, either I go with her, you know, just to keep her company, or, you know, she takes a friend with her to keep her company. But it's very rare. I think the furthest she's actually gone is Birmingham. So that's like, what, 100, 110 miles? That's the furthest she's gone. So I advised her, I said, look, your daily driving is approximately 7-8 miles to work, 8 miles back, total of 16 miles, a mile and a half, 2 miles to town, and back is another 4 miles, total of 20 miles a day on average. She could essentially drive the car, an average car, a 30 kilowatt Nissan Leaf, for 4 days on one charge. How good is that? So her only gripe was, Dad, the car looks ugly. And okay, you know, to a certain extent, I can understand that the car is unconventional. I wouldn't say ugly, because I quite like it. It stands out. The car actually stands out in a crowd. So if you're on the motorway, you know, a Leaf passes you, overtakes you, you know it's a Leaf because it's got a unique light cluster. Although, you know, it does look a bit strange, but it's unique. You can spot it a mile away, depending if you've got good, you know, good eyesight. But no, literally speaking, it is a strange car. But all the curves and, you know, like the nooks and crannies on the car is essentially for a purpose. It's got a very high, you know, high aerodynamic efficiency. So it reduces the air drag, which again, air drag essentially, you know, like when you're driving on the motorway and, you know, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm quite sure there's loads of you out there, you know, you wind the window down and you put your hand out and you're like, you know, you're doing that against the wind, so the wind is literally pushing your hand, and then you're like moving your hand like a blade, and then the air cuts through, and the more blunt you are, you know, the more blunt you are, the more air resistance, the more blade or sort of shaped away, so you're cutting through the air essentially, the less resistance. And less resistance means adding less weight or less stress on the motors, therefore reducing the need for more power, essentially meaning your power will last longer to take you further. So the design element, you know, obviously there's a practical reason for it, and I quite like it. I think it's quite quirky. You know, it has a good good character. So let's see. Has anyone got any questions for me? Just scrolling through the comments, there's quite a few actually. The electric car's good, save petrol money. Yeah. No, there's no questions. Surprising. Oh, I've got a quick message, so let's see what that's about. Okie dokie. So that's irrelevant, so let's get out of that. Okay. Going back to the stream. So what do we have here? I don't want you guys to be staring at my bald head for too long. It's not a pretty view. I'll try and keep it nice and polished, so at least it looks less distracting. So unless anyone has any comments, you know, I think I'm going to wrap up. Raj Ahmed Bhaiya Khuida, can you share the link to the music videos? Yes, Raj Ahmed Bhai, if you go onto the MBS Facebook page, you'd find the link I'm assuming you're referring to Zulfali's music video. You'll find it on the MBS page, I think 4 or 5 posts after. So it's like a big black circle with Zulfi written from centre outwards. You can't miss it. Farooq Ali bhai, so we take that. See you on Monday at Prabhas Bangla's. Do yeah, okay. Inshallah, I'll probably see you there. Let's see. Right, looks like we don't have any comments about the EVs. So either everyone's an expert on electric vehicles, or they understand the commonly asked questions, or they're not bothered. I wonder which. Right, I'm gonna suck my coffee. You know, it's gone cold, I forgot. You know, this is what happens when you get chitty chatty, you forget what you're doing. So in the meantime, what I'll do, I'll just sort of quickly summarize what we've went over today. So essentially today what we were talking about is the pros and cons of EVs. The pros, simply put, it costs less, it saves you money, there's less parts to go wrong because essentially it's just a motor turning your wheels. It's got high-tech technology which helps you keep safer on the roads. Cons. You can't go on long journeys, not yet. Maybe the 2019 version, I believe they said they're bringing out a 60 kilowatt battery, which gives you approximately 240 miles range. So if that's the case, that would be more realistic for a lot of people, because from Rochdale to London would be about 210, 215 miles. So that means I can go non-stop from Rochdale to London, East London, to my hometown, Bethnal Green, get there, and I'm sure, you know, like there's a couple of power points there I can charge the car. So after I do my business, I probably have roughly about 20 to 30 miles range left, so I can do my, you know, like Sokkor and see my mates and so on and so forth. And on the way, I can either stop just on the outer ring, stop at a service station, probably grab lunch or something, or, you know, have a brew, catch up on Facebook, and charge and be on my way back. One stop. Brilliant. But for the time being, it's not practical, and it's not impossible, it's doable. You can entirely do it. You just have to plan for planned stops. So mid-journey you have to stop, charge, and then go. Like I say, you know, if you're a youngster, you're a young person, you know, maybe patience isn't a strong point. No offense intended. Sometimes, you know, like us older people, we tend to sort of like to take things slightly easy and take a break, you know, drive 100, 110 miles, chill out, have a brew, and then be on our way again. And during that time we can charge at least 80 miles, so that's a good top up. But for people who go up and down the country at least 3-4 times a week, that's not feasible, because you have to add at least half an hour, 40 minutes per charge for 80 odd miles. And if you're literally traveling from one end of the country to another, that would probably get you to stop 3 times. That's an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours on top of your journey time. So sadly, that might not be for you. However, if you can afford a Tesla, then yes, I think the maximum range is 315 miles, and if you charge your car in a Tesla supercharger, it only takes what, 20-25 minutes to come to an 80% charge, which, wow, that's 240 miles in half an hour. So you get 240 miles range in half an hour. So that's brilliant. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Raj Ahmed Bhaiya Huida. How long does it take to charge up, and what is the speed like comparison to conventional vehicles? Fantastic question. I covered that in the first part of the program. Now, if you're charging using a normal 3-pin outlet in your house, it takes roughly about 8 to 10 hours, depending on the state of charge. So if your charge is, say, I don't know, down to less than 10%, it will take slightly longer to charge, because essentially what it does, it warms up the battery pack and then it starts to charge. If your battery state is higher than 20%, then it essentially takes about 8 hours on a normal 3-pin plug. If you get a charge unit fitted on your premises, then it takes between 4 to 6 hours. 4 hours, again, using the same method. You know, if it's 20%, then it takes 4 hours to reach 80%, and then after the 80%, it trickle charges slowly. It doesn't charge at a faster rate, it charges at your normal 3-pin rate, slow charge. Again, you know, just to sort of preserve battery state, it's always a good idea not to run it absolutely down to 0, because, you know, like the battery tends to lose its memory, charge state memory, and it's not a good idea to constantly charge it up to 100%. Currently, as far as I've found out, it's recommended to charge up to 80%, which essentially, you know, if your vehicle's range is about 100 miles per charge, then that means, you know, you're going to get 80 miles on average. And for an average person, 80 miles is fantastic. You know, it's more than enough. Now, if you're using a rapid charger, which is available on service stations and certain car parks. For example, in our Rochdale car park or Manchester car parks, these rapid chargers essentially charge your car to 80% within from half an hour to 40 minutes, depending on your battery size. Half an hour. So if you have a Nissan Leaf at 24 kilowatts, it will charge your car to 80% in just under half an hour. If you have a 30 kilowatts, it would charge it up to 80% in 30 minutes to 40 minutes, again depending on the state of charge. I mean, at the moment you can't use the Tesla superchargers. Now the Tesla superchargers really pump out a lot of juice, so theoretically, if we could use Tesla superchargers on a Nissan Leaf, to get 80 miles range would take roughly about 10 minutes. Using the same ideology or same logic as you get 240 miles of charge in half an hour. So it'll take roughly about 10 minutes. But I think, you know, like more to do with the leisurely pace. You know, it's best to charge at night at home. You know, these cars have a timer, so you can come home. I don't know. Let's say you come home at 8 o'clock in the evening. you can time your car to start charging at say 1 o'clock. So, you know, you just press the time. It's like setting an alarm. You put your charger on timer. It'll kick in at 1 o'clock in the morning, charge up to 7 o'clock. On a cold winter's day, you can also, you know, remotely heat your car. So you can set up a timer on a winter's day to preheat your car. So if you're leaving for work at 7, your car is nice and toasty when you get there, and it's not used any battery because you're preheating whilst you're charging. So essentially your heater's running off the grid rather than, you know, like sort of consuming electric from your car's battery. So that's a bonus. Hope that answered your question, Rajabhai. Right, okay. What else do we have? We've got Jackson Mia again. He's joined us. I think there was a little break. Bashar Mia is watching as well. Assalamu alaikum, Bashar Bhai. Hope you're all right. Right, so unless we have any other questions, I think we should wrap up today. So just to quickly summarise, we looked at electric vehicles, the practicality of it, who's it for, who it might not suit, looking at, you know, future trends. You know, we are gonna move on to electric cars sooner or later. For most of us, you know, it's probably a good idea to buy a second-hand one. I've also done a cost comparison to a normal petrol or diesel car against an electric car, whereas petrol and diesel car, the costs keep adding on to the initial buying price. So over 5 years you actually spend more, whereas on an electric car your initial buying price is still the same, and you're not spending as much as you would do on a normal fuel car. So essentially, if you're doing, you know, like 400 miles a week, your car is literally paid for itself, and you have some loose change in 5 years. And 5 years is an average time that most people hang on to their cars. So over a 5-year period, your car basically pays for itself. Who is the car for? It's essentially for everyone. Whether you're doing school runs and just shopping runs, if that's the case, you know, one charge should last you a whole week. If you're going up and down the country, it might not suit you unless you're willing to take a couple of pit stops. The future, about, you know, the future of EVs. One thing I didn't mention is General Motors has released a car in the States which isn't currently available in the UK, and there's no rumours, there's no news that they will release it. It's a fantastic car called the Bolt, and it seems to be running fantastic. I've watched a couple of reviews on it, a couple of real videos as from owners. So I'm looking at that. So looking at all these things, you know, it just makes you think that, okay, so if that car came over and it's roughly around the same price as, slightly higher than the Nissan Leaf, but it's got an exponentially longer range. So that car gives you 240 miles range on one charge. That is quite practical for most people, even the people who actually drive long distances. So that's something to consider. And let's see, Nissan obviously is you know, looking into, you know, like expanding on their range. Chinese buyers mentioned the Jaguar I-Pace, which is coming out, and it's going to be priced between 50 and 60,000, I think. It's quite steep, but a very nice car, beautifully crafted. That's if you have a nice deep pocket. Let's see. Yeah, Jackson Mears says there's a few of them car chargers at work on the car park, and people leave their car on charge all day till late evening after 6:30. Yeah, most workplaces also accommodate a standard plug, not a rapid charger, but a standard plug. Now, just to quickly give you a quick idea, an average tariff, you know, a home electric tariff varies between 11 pence per kilowatt to 14 pence per kilowatt, depending on what tariff you're on. So if I were to assume, let's say 12.5p or 3 pence, 12.5 pence per kilowatt, and 1 kilowatt gives you approximately 4 miles, then it works out roughly about 3 pence a mile. Now I know, you know, most electric vehicle manufacturers, or Nissan itself, they have actually claimed, you know, it costs you less than 2p a mile. Yes, essentially they are right, but that means that you have to sign up with a particular supplier. Now again, you know, like, even though I'm not sponsored by them, I'll still mention them, and they are quite good. Their energy is produced ethically through renewable energy sources, i.e. solar, solar, wind. They import a small amount of nuclear energy. They also have what's it called, hydroelectric as well. So electric generated through, you know, like tidal waves and so on and so forth. So, and you know, like waterfall generators, etc., etc. So their electric is essentially cheaper because it costs them less overall on average. And these guys have a fantastic offer. You know, if you're an EV owner, you essentially get 12 free charges on the motorway network, whereas normally I think they charge you £6 to connect, and then I think they charge you 13 pence per kilowatt as your charges. So £6 to connect. If you charge say 10 kilowatts, then you know you're essentially paying £1.30. So your whole charge, that particular charge session would cost you £6 for connection, £1.30 for the charge. So it'll cost you what, £7.30. Again, it's still cheaper than petrol. You know, it's more than, it's 1/3 of petrol, the economy. So you're still saving money. Whichever way you look at it, you're still saving money. And a lot of companies, like the council as well, you know, like most local authorities are offering, you know, like charge ports for hybrid cars, which are like part battery, part fuel, and electric cars as well in their car parks for designated employees. So that's a benefit. The way forward, the future is electric vehicles. Most of you would know that, you know, like Tesla had made a Roadster many years ago. They're still on the road, surprisingly. They're still on the road. So in terms of people who have doubts about, you know, there's been rumours on the internet saying that it costs about in excess of about £5,000 to replace a battery pack. You don't really have to worry about that. It's like less than 1% of cars produced so far had needed to, you know, change their battery, and that's only due to their negligence, as in they let the car run down on a regular basis to zero, or they overcharge, they trickle charge their cars. So, you know, you can't really blame the manufacturer when they actually give you guidelines saying don't go below 10%. You know, don't go over 80% unless you actually, you know, like it's just a one-off or, you know, the occasional one. But if you're constantly charging to 100% and discharging it to what 10 until you go into turtle mode, as in a safety reserve mode, you know, you're literally, you know, punishing your batteries. So if your battery does go due to your own negligence, you can't really blame the manufacturer, because you know these conditions and you should work within those constraints. It's like anything in life, you know, whatever we do, we have to work within, you know, the limitations in order for us to, you know, make the cake and eat it. Simples. Right, what's this now? Abdul Latif is watching. Assalamu alaikum, Abdul Latif. You joined us right at the end. We've got Nanumia. Assalamu alaikum, Nanumia. Bye. How are you? You're looking very smart on your profile pic. Very dapper indeed. Modine. Assalamu alaikum. Once you wean off fossil fuel, they will put electric prices up. Yes and no. When I say yes, is because yes, they will put the prices up, because ultimately it does cost a lot of money to actually make these huge wind turbines and various different generators. Now, the beauty of it is, excuse me, one of the beauties are, you know, solar panels over the past 10 years have actually dropped drastically. It's dropped so much that 10 years ago, what we would have paid £10,000 for, today we're only paying £3,000. So it's like, it's 30% of what it used to be. And once these things progress, you know, we move from fossil fuel to renewables, green energy, most household excuse me, most household owners would actually move towards sustainable stuff like solar panels. Like Tesla has actually released roof tile solar panels, which act as roof tiles, have a very long life. I think they guarantee their roof tiles for 30-35 years. So instead of, you know, if you let's say if you're building a brand new house, it's almost, I think it's 1.5 times more expensive than standard roof tiles. So if you were to do your roofing and you thought excuse me, and you thought, well, why not, you know, instead of putting normal roof slates, I'm going to put solar panels on, solar tiles. And if you do that, and they're tempered ceramic, tempered glass, once you do that, essentially what you're doing, your whole roof is a solar energy provider. Now, bearing in mind, currently, I think we only utilize 20 to 30% of the solar energy that we get. So when we factor in your actual usage, as in how many watts, how many kilowatts we actually use on a day-to-day basis to run our lights, our computers, our chargers, our fridges, washers, TV, all our electrical equipment. So we need to factor in, you know, a percentage where on a bad day we still generate enough. So if we were to factor in that and have the minimum meet our actual day-to-day requirements, and also install a battery. Tesla's also come up with a Powerwall battery. I think it stores about 10 kilowatts per battery. So it's a stackable thing, you know, so you can put 2 batteries on parallel, so it'll be 20 kilowatts, and that would essentially run your whole house. And you do a setup whereby you have 1 or 2 Powerwalls. It doesn't necessarily have to be Tesla. It could be any, you know, there are many brands coming out these days, and they're very affordable. You know, it's almost like same price as a boiler. You stack them up, you got your solar energy. Even on a rainy day, whatever comes in, you know, it powers your battery. Any excess is during the summer, we sell it off to the grid, and the grid either gives us a credit. I mean, in England, as far as I know, you have a feed-in tariff. They actually pay you for every kilowatt that you feed into the national grid. In other parts of the world, for example, I think it's South Africa, Australia, South Africa, instead of giving you money for whatever you feed into the grid, they actually give you credit, like for like. So if you feed, I don't know, let's say 100 kilowatts, for example, if you feed in 100 kilowatts, that means you've got a credit of 100 kilowatts. So on a rainy, dark day, when you're using electric from the grid, you can use 100 kilowatts for free, and anything you use over that, you just pay for that. So there are, you know, like fantastic ideas, fantastic ways of doing things. We can also use wind turbines as well. There are like domestic wind turbines that we can fit on the side of the house, which generates, you know, a fair bit, you know, like 1-2 kilowatts of energy. Again, that, because wind is pretty much constant, you know, it depends, you know, sometimes we get rapid wind, rapid rotations, sometimes we get just slow rotations. Either way, that would actually go into the battery and essentially store that. So in the evening, when our usage is high, we'd use the battery first, and then we use from the grid, which means we save money from electric anyway. So yes, initially there will be a hike in when electricity prices will go up when we move from fossil fuels. But most house owners would actually look at alternatives like solar panels, miniature wind turbines, power walls. For example, you know, I'm sure they will have the multiple tariffs, like, you know, like your nighttime tariff, which is like 3-4 pence cheaper. So, you know, during that time, the power wall would essentially charge itself when the electric price is cheap, and then during the day or peak time would be using the power wall's energy to, you know, like sort of for our normal usage. So again, you know, we can save money that way. It's a valid question, and quite rightly so, they will go up because of the cost of, you know, the alternative technologies that they're putting in, and over a number of years they will have to recover the cost of the actual units that they put in, the labour, the servicing, and of course, you know, like their profits, of course, you know. So yes, you're absolutely right. You know, undeniably, the public are quite wise. They will find a way, and like I say, you know, like China is one of the biggest suppliers of solar panels. I'm sure, you know, like, you know, if it costs roughly about £3,000 to power an average house, and an average solar panel life is guaranteed between 20 and 25 years, you know, that panel would essentially pay for itself many times over and would save a lot of money. So people might actually, you know, lean towards doing that, you know, getting solar and, you know, wind turbines fitted in the house or backyard and so on. So yeah, thank you. That was a great point. Muhammad Abdul Hamid is watching. Assalamu alaikum, Hamid Bhai. I hope you're you know, I hope you're all right. Boro busy dawa. Ehan din ayara wa amna maluge shokhro ro wa juni. Zuga zukur mu inshallah. Rahat Khundakhari is watching. Assalamu alaikum, Rahat Bhai. You know, fantastic musician. You know, he plays the percussions, dol, tabla. Is fantastic on the octopad. Lovely guy. You know, he actually played in the last two we had in where was it? Stockport. We had a night with Khalamia. you know, fantastic performer. Lovely. Thank you, Rahat Bhai, for joining us. কোনো question আসেনি বা electric গাড়ির সম্বন্ধে? This is the time to ask. Let's see. Does anyone else have any questions about electric vehicles, or you know, alternative energy? Ask away, because this is the time. So let's see how it goes. I think we had a pretty good program today. Quite a few people have participated. I was expecting some tricky questions. Thankfully, I had none. Allah say so. So let's see. Right, I'm getting nosy on the phone now. So let's see. Any other comments come through? Righty-ho. Right, okay. Doesn't seem like we've got any new questions. So I think I might as well just wrap it up for today. And guys, you know, like, put in comments what you would like me to, what topic you'd like me to cover. It could be anything. Whatever you're, you know, whatever you fancy I can cover, whether it's something to do with society. One thing I don't want to cover is politics, because politics can be messy, and I have various friends with various different political views and beliefs, and simply put, I don't want to fall out with them. I've got more better things to argue with them other than their political beliefs. Let's see. Like I say, you know, like, you guys pop in any comments about anything that you'd like me to discuss, look into, and maybe I could actually get some interesting people to actually join us. Oh, I've got Syed Ali Ahmed, you know, our local councillor. Assalamu alaikum, Ahmed Bhai. Kita horwa balani. Bro busy dawa. So yeah, so if you have any burning questions about electric vehicles, alternative energy, ask away. If not, I'll close the program for today, and I'll think about a couple of topics which can be quite interesting, and we'll actually sort of I'll put in my next post, you know, the topics, maybe a poll or something. All you have to do is just tick it, and you know, the topic that gets the highest votes, I'll be covering it. It could be many things, you know. It could be something to do with society, social, agricultural, technology, advancing science, you name it. If you have any suggestions, please pop it down in the comments section. And guys, it's essential that you like the page, so you get notified, you know, when I put a post out. You get to know about these programs, upcoming programs, whether it's just a chat show, whether it's an interview with someone, whether it's a musical or cultural show. You get to know about it. So the most important thing is, you go to the page, like the page, the MBS page, like it, join the group, the MBS group, so we can have a bit of a banter there. Join that. I have a YouTube channel which I didn't really promote, to be honest with you, from the beginning, because I was using it as a place to store my videos, because you know, like multiple videos actually take up a lot of space on the computer. So I needed to free the computer and also have some sort of a backup. And I know YouTube is very good for backing up. You know, they have multiple servers and they put same copies on multiple servers. So if 1, 2 or 3 servers go down, your content is still safe. So I know all the videos are safe. You can go on YouTube, search MB Studioz, or better still, just type in on YouTube Ereh, E-R-E-H, Huncho, H-U-N-C-H-O space N-I. And then you'll come up with my initial teaser for the channel, which I made back in June last year. And then you'll see MBS Studio logo, the one that you can see up there in the corner. Where is it? Oh, there you go, where the light switch is. Hit that, hit the subscribe button. So all the videos that you see, obviously, you know, Facebook compresses them, and by compressing it, essentially what they're doing is reducing the quality. On YouTube, I try to, you know, like put the raw file up, so it'll be either 720 or 1080. So it's going to be in high definition. You'll get to enjoy it better. And don't forget, guys, to share, like and share, subscribe. The more likes I get, the more encouraged I feel, you know, to do these videos. If not many people are interested, there's no point in me, you know, doing these videos, because I'd rather be better off watching TV, chilling out, you know, having a brew. Actually, finishing a brew completely, you know, without it going stone cold. So, like I say, that's my socializing done. That's me chilling out with you guys, sharing a bit of know-how, having a chin wag, having a bit of a laugh. And I hope this has been entertaining, educational, informative, and inshallah I'll see you next Wednesday. Again, running on Bengali time, even though I need to come on at 10 o'clock. There's always some excuse, you know, that makes me run a bit late. But hopefully one day I'll make it on time. Until then, bala tahuka, shundar tahuka, shusto tahuka. Assalamu alaikum, adab, and have a good night.